Hey, are you an educator? Are you looking for something that's going to change your class a little bit? A fun activity you could drop in, maybe even use for an assessment, or maybe like something you could use to like prep kids. Maybe it's just a good activity you want to drop in the middle, but you're looking for that. You're on this hunt. You're searching for that new lesson, that new idea, that thing that you could try. You could be that teacher that brings something to your school, your kids, something unique, something different. Well, I got a little secret for you. Come a little closer. No, I mean it. Come closer to the screen. I know if you're not doing it, so come on, lean in. Roll intro. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. If you are new, I am Michael Matera. I am a teacher, author, presenter, and right now, YouTuber. And what I want to do here is, on this channel, we're all about finding joy in the journey, both in the classroom and out of the classroom. So if you think this is something that fits your bill, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel, if you hit that like button, maybe after the video, if you added a little comment of how you might use this or things you want to share. Love it when we strike up that conversation, because I truly believe we are better together on this journey. So let's get started with that secret that I have to share with you, this thing that I did that I think you're going to want to do as well. All right, as a teacher who's back in the classroom, who have students live in front of them, as well as some students that are zoomed in a Zoom meeting at the same time, I'm always looking for some lessons here that are going to be a little different, so that we can have a little pop of excitement because it's something that's out of the norm for them. But that lesson still needs to sort of meet three criteria. I want them to work hard, I want them to be creative, and I want them to bond as students. This is something that I think is super important, that collaborative spirit and nature to do something together. So this lesson that I'm about to show you does all three of these things. Now, I gave it kind of a fun name, just something a little different. I want to think about this activity as true laid out pedagogy, because that's what I did. I engineered this situation using principles that are applied from some engagement techniques that we have. So I call this activity, this style, this thing, Mastery Engagement Method. This Mastery Engagement Method, it uses a couple game mechanics that were intentionally put in here to really layer this experience, and we're going to get to that right now. Okay, my first ever Mastery Engagement Method rolled out like this. It was divided into 3 challenges they had to do. Each challenge I called engagement. They had the first engagement, the second engagement, and if they could make it to it, the third engagement. And what they know is it is better for their class to get through as many engagements as possible. And hopefully, if we're able to get to that final engagement and sort of defeat that piece, then that's huge. That's awesome. We kind of like won the engagement, if you will. And this is where we're going to see 3 game mechanics at play in a lesson. And this is the beauty of using engagement techniques, and like scientific engagement techniques. We got the progression mechanic that I just described. By having 3 layers, 3 challenges, and they have to kind of unlock and open up those challenges, that's huge for them, right? That is a motivating piece that we know, like science tells us, that's huge to unlock. So we have that built in this lesson. And more on that later about the engagements and what they were doing. We'll get to that, I promise. Cool down. I'm promising you, I'll get to it. The second mechanic that was applied here was what's called endowed progress. We want kids to feel like they're already into this task. And one way I did endowed progress, this is going to sound a little bit tough, but what I did was kids couldn't participate. We started off teaching them the rules, and I said, you cannot participate if you're missing any work. So while we began this engagement strategy here, they had to first fix their missing work. So some kids were working on that. And what this did was, one, for those kids, it reinforced that this is important. We need to depend on you to do your work. And you can't face this engagement. You can't do this unless you're prepared for it. And those things weren't just fluff work. That was preparing you for this. And that was really interesting to see some of the attitudes of the students. Most of them that couldn't participate were kind of bummed they couldn't participate, and they sat there and they did their work, and then they started to ask if they could get in after they had sort of fixed their mistake of the homework. And I said, for sure, because your team needs you, right? But the flip side, the kids that got to participate right away, these kids had that sensation of what's called endowed progress. They already were given at the start of the game a kind of leg up, that they were already in it. So this isn't, you're not starting from square one. It's almost like, wow, square one was the other day and I'm already there. I already did that. So I'm here. It made those kids like sit up in their chair. They were like heightened awareness and ready to do it because they weren't starting from square one. So this was an awesome like tool that I don't often use, that endowed progress model where you start them kind of into the system already. But this served two notions, right? Got those students who didn't do the work to understand the value of doing work, and it gave the others that sense of endowed progress. So that was a new mechanic that I kind of added there. And then the last one is the failure mechanic. You're going to see that at play because the structure of this mastery engagement method is that we're aiming towards mastery as a whole, as a class. And ultimately, if we don't even make it through all of the engagements, that's okay, because each level is awesome for where they're at and they need to work on that level. And so now, I mean, we got to talk about the engagements themselves. How did this lay out? All right, engagement 1 was awesome, was epic. Engagement 1, I used a free software called Quizzes. Definitely check Quizzes out. It's free to sign up. Kids can log in with their Google password if you want. It can click into your Google Classroom. It can do all the googly things we want something to do. It is a sweet, quick quiz builder. It'll let you grab questions from other quizzes if you want. You can hand tip and do all of them yourselves. But what it does that I needed for this particular activity, this was not a summative. This was a formative tool for me. This isn't going in the gradebook per se. What they had to do is take this quiz, and I used team mode. So you're not seeing individual scores, you're seeing team scores because I didn't want to highlight where anybody was at. But ultimately, I didn't even care about the teams. What Quizzes has, up on this screen behind me, Quizzes will put a giant bar that's showing you the class percentage. And I didn't tell kids what they needed at first. We just took the quiz. And I'm telling them that like we need to do well enough to sort of defeat this first engagement. And they take it, and this is 4 weeks into school, and kids hadn't really studied for them. I didn't tell them that they had to study for this or anything. And so our class average was, I want to say it was like 68, 70% on this like pop quiz that covered the unit. And then I gave like one of these sort of silly speeches, if you will, where I tell the kids like, well, all right, like our class average was 68 or 70% or whatever it was. And I said, I'm just getting to know you. This is the beginning of the year. This is the first time I've ever given you something like this. So I don't know. Like, you have to tell me, is that good for you guys? I mean, that's more than half the questions right. And all their faces were like, no, oh my gosh, they're nervous. They're like, is this on our grade? Can I reassess? And I said, well, you think you can do better? And they're like, oh, yes, I'm so embarrassed by this. I said, well, why don't you study for 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes. So I give them 2-3 minutes to study, and they're like, well, what do we need to get to defeat the engagement? I said, you need to get 90%. And they were like, what? We have to get to 90% as a class average. I said, yeah. And some kids were like, we could never do it. Aha, guys, this is the failure mechanic. We're literally putting failure right in their face and being okay with it. But at the same time, we're giving them a path to walk through that failure and feel the success. So I gave them 3 minutes to study, and we took the quiz again. And that same bar goes up on it, and they're seeing it go up, they're seeing it waver and go down and then up, and boom, our second quiz. And now I teach 5 different classes. So like some of them got 80%, some got 82%, some got 85%. None of them did it on the second attempt. We didn't get up to 90%. And I said, whoa, guys, 3 minutes of studying. They're taking the exact same quiz, but it doesn't matter. That's the knowledge I want them to know. They're taking that same quiz, and they got 85%, we'll say. And it's like, whoa, you went from like a D+ to like all the way up to a solid B. Not bad. I don't know you guys yet. Like, is this good for you? And some of them were like, this is pretty good. I'm pretty proud. Like, Mr. Matera, like that, for that small amount of saying, I'm doing this well. This is awesome. Other kids were like, no, and like, I would like to do better. And I was like, well, we still haven't hit the threshold. We have not beat level 1 or engagement 1. So we take it again. Some classes on that third attempt were able to get to that 90%. Some got to 95%. Some needed a fourth attempt. The beauty of this, guys, with this mastery engagement method, these guys are unlocking these levels. But even if this first level is what we stayed at, I let the class then work and work and work and practice and practice and practice. And while some kids were starting to get that 100%, I start talking to them, and I remember I teach 6th grade. I start talking to them about the fact that, like, if you get over 90%, you're kind of helping your group. Because if you can score a 95%, that means somebody else can score an 85% and your class average is good. If you can score that 100%, you're kind of saving for the class this other 10%. Well, now you have these like warriors who are like proud of the fact that they were able to help out their house. You start hearing people start complimenting each other. You hear people start encouraging people, like, we got this, people, like, let's study up. When it got to the point where they got to study a little bit, they started saying, these were the tricky questions, guys. Make sure you do this, make sure you do that. They started to help each other in between the rounds. Fantastic. Then, if they unlocked that, we moved to engagement 2. Now, they realize the big pot of gold, if you will, at the end is if they get to engagement 3 and are able to defeat it. The more time we spend on this, the less time they have on future engagements. Let's talk second engagement. Second engagement is where we add that creative element. That first one was able to kind of like cover vocab terms and that kind of stuff that I wanted to make sure people understood that stuff. I wanted to make sure they got that information and knowledge and had it in their head so that we can use that knowledge later on in this and later on in the unit. This was good reinforcements. I broke the class down into 4 groups. I call my groups guilds. It works with my storyline here, but 4 groups. On my website, I pre-built 4 Google Slides. It was like I just made 4 separate ones. I made access to anybody on the internet. And then I just told kids, like, you're in group 1, this is group 2, this is group 3. Same with my virtual students. I said, hey, you're on group 1, you're in group 2, you're in group 3, right? They all load their proper presentation. And then I say, all right, guys, this is going to require your focus. This is going to require your resilience. This is going to require your creativity. On that slide, together, just one slide, I need you to make and then fill in the blank. Just like the first round, where we had that bar saying whether they reached 90%. Here, I need my students to also reach that 90%, that mastery level, right? This time, I'm the judge, and I let them know that I'm the judge, but we need everybody doing well. We need to have that class average of really good, of mastery. And here they had to be creative. So my first round, we had some people are able to do this quicker and like be successful maybe in the first round. Some houses had to do a second round. Some houses had to do a third round. And just like before, the more it takes you time in this engagement, the less time you're going to have in that fourth engagement. All right, I got to pause here and tell you a little bit of another tool I used on this. I used a thing called classroom screens. I put it up on my screen back there, and I had several timers set up for each activity in this. So in the quizzes activity, they had 8 minutes to do it. Now, part of that wasn't like to freak them out. Part of it was I knew they were going to fail. Remember, it's the failure mechanic. So I didn't want it to take this too long because I knew I was going to let them retake it and retake it and retake it in the moment. But the cool thing is I really wanted that intensity of like a game show. And so I used my timers for that. And there's a couple tips and techniques I have for you. So for my quizzes, like anything like a Kahoot, they have to like sign in with the code and their name goes up there and then I can finally say start quiz. When I told them for this activity, time is like black and white. You have to do things by the time. And so on this first round, on my slide, it says like we have 8 minutes to do this engagement. And I said that begins the moment I put up the quiz like sign up. So if it takes you guys 5 minutes to sign up, you only have 3 minutes to take the quiz. If it takes you 2 minutes to sign up, then you have 6 minutes to take the quiz. And they knew this was not evaluative, like they knew that was okay. So they're like, all right, and they're like, all right, well, why don't we pull up this while he's still talking? So they're pulling up the quizzes site, so they're going to be ready for when the code comes up. And they're strategizing their time. That's awesome. In the second engagement, going back to what I was talking about, for these tasks, these slides they had to build. Each group had to build one slide. My first level of that second engagement was build me a single slide that showed what you think was the biggest, most impactful achievement of the Sumerians. And I said it needs to fuse content and creativity. So I'm looking for you to change things like the fonts and the backgrounds and the layout look nice, as well as have some information about your thing. And you have 5 minutes to do it. And on Classroom Screen, I already had a 5-minute timer and I hit go. Here comes my next suggestion. I borrowed this one from Master Chef. If you've ever seen some of these cooking shows, great place to have to get a lot of ideas from as teachers who want to add some game mechanic elements. And the thing that I've always thought about adding but never have been sort of brave and bold enough to do, or maybe I just forgot because I do that sometimes, I thought it'd be fun to add this element where on those shows like Lego Master Builders or Master Chef, not only do they have to cook the thing in the 30 minutes or whatever, but they also have to plate it and bring the plate down to the judging table. So it's not just finish at your bench and still be adding that sauce and the time goes off and then you're like, oh, okay. No. You have to be done saucing it, done doing all that, and all the way up at the judge's table with the plate down and hands up when the time is up. And so this time I told them, I got these timers up here. It makes a loud ding, ding when done. But I told them, you need to be all done before the ding, ding happens. Once the ding, ding happens, use done. And how I could judge that is we're sitting in these rows. Kids had to have their laptop spun. All kids in a group have to have their laptop spun facing me with their hands in the air before that thing dings. Oh, and this was a fun little twist because, and I've never done this before, I got to see kids like who wanted to push that envelope. Some groups were like, there was 30 seconds left. They're like, this slide's good enough. Let's spin it around. Let's lock in so we don't make a mistake. And then some people in that same group was like, no, I just want to tweak the font here on this. And I think I got time. And then the other kids are shouting them the time. Like, you only have 10 seconds left. Like, make sure you get it done. Spin it around. It was this fun intensity, but it was also at the same time collaborative. Kids were working together. There was something they cared about and shared about together. And that was awesome. I love that little twist. So steal that one. I would love to hear how it goes in your class. So then what happened? All right, so the dinger goes off, ding, 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 ding. All those laptops are facing me. If a group failed to do it, and I know it's going to feel harsh, but again, the whole challenge here is mastery engagement method. So if they aren't masters, you got to think like a computer on this. And I tell kids in these game moments, I'm thinking like the Xbox. If you meant to spin it around, does the Xbox forgive you? Nope. The Xbox says you didn't do it. So don't be mad. Be resilient and just do better that next round. So if anybody didn't do it in that row, I'm going to say like that entire row is DQ'd, just like in Master Chef. The ones that are turned around, I go and give feedback on them. And just light feedback, but it's one of these things you're speaking loud enough so that everybody hears you. So when you're critiquing row one and say like, hey, this had really good information, but you kind of left it the default template, you kind of left it that white background. I wish you changed that background. I wish you thought about the fonts a little bit. That's giving that same advice to everybody, right? Get to the next row and you're kind of like, you left things in the default spots. So it's kind of an unimaginative layout. Like, get more creative next time. That you're giving that advice to everybody, not just row two, right? Let's say you got a DQ'd row. Still give them advice. Still be like, this is great work. Do X, Y, Z next time and make sure you get it in on time. Let's say they all had got them in time and they were all good. You can say, guys, as a class, you did it. You defeated engagement 2 because this is mastery level. If you felt like they still needed to do better, say, let's do it again. So my second attempt at the second engagement, they had to make a wanted poster from somebody in the unit. So they just added another blank slide and started working on a wanted poster, again, together with their guild, like 3-4 students in a guild, mixed with online students. They're using the chat box. They're talking as well. Fantastic. Again, same thing, give critique. They got to spin it around, all those things, set the timer up on the board. It was fabulous. If they defeated that, we moved on to the third engagement. So let's get to that. All right, guys, the third and final engagement. This was epic. Not everybody even made it to this level, and that's okay because look what they got to do. They practiced some digital skills, some creative skills, some teamwork skills. They practiced all the like vocab terms and that kind of things over and over again, reinforcing that work. And if that's as far as they got, that's great. That's a win. We had 2 mastery levels, right? Now we're getting to this 3rd mastery level. Here, this one, the task is a little different. Up on the screen, this didn't just say 3rd engagement. Here, this was like the boss. They had like slogged their way through progression mechanic here. They progressed all the way to that 3rd level. They're checking the class clock saying like, oh, we only have so many minutes. And you're like, yep, so let's do this. Off to the side on this revealed the boss, and it revealed the ally we were working with. Now, for some of you who've never played a game, you might be like, oh, this is sounding crazy. Super simple mechanics that you guys could apply. It just said, boom, at the top, who's our ally? The ally were the Sumerians, who we had learned about and we're working with. And I say they have 25 hit points. Hang in there. Don't freak out. I'm going to explain it. 25 hit points. That's what they have. And now, below that, it says who we're up against. And the boss here is the Hittites. The Hittites are one of the first ones to develop iron technique, and they have better weapons because of it. So they have 50 hit points. I promise I'll get to it. I promise. Here's where I'm going to tell you about these hit points and how this functions. What I do is I go around the class and I just sort of popcorn ask questions to groups and say like, all right, it's your group, and I'm calling on that kid, right? Making sure we rotate who gets called on. And you ask them a question. And if they get it right, we get to roll a die. And I use that classroom screen that has a die, and I click on it. And whatever the number comes up, we take that off the Hittites. So if it gets a 5, boom, 5 off the Hittites. Next kid a question, boom, 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 boom. And I'm just bopping around to the groups, bopping around to the different people. If we get it wrong, then we roll for the boss. The boss rolls the die. And here's where those special powers come in play. In the Hittites, I came up with 2 fun little powers. I think I called it the golden bow, and that was if the boss rolled a 6, instead of taking off 6 damage on our HP, it takes off 12. So if they roll a 6, it doubles that value. And then they had, I think, throwing spears or something like that, and I just came up with a fun little mechanic that if the boss rolls a 1, it gets to re-roll and hope it gets a 6. If it gets a 6, it takes off the 12. If it rolls anything else, it just takes off the 1 of its original roll. So now there's a little tension as that die's rolling on my digital screen. There's that tension of like, oh, like what is it going to be? On both sides. When we're successful, we're rolling and we're like hoping for that big number. When we're not successful, man, we are hoping for like a 2. We want a 2. Give us a 2. And it erupts when certain things happen in the class. It's super fun. We're chipping away at this. So again, a little progression model there, some failure model there too, but picking themselves up from that failure. And none of my classes were successful because they basically ran out of time, mainly because we took so long in engagement 1 and engagement 2, but that's also because it's the beginning of the year. And here, guys, this is where this mastery engagement method really works for you guys, because you could just add more engagements. It didn't have to be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5, right? You could span it over several days. I wouldn't make it the whole unit because part of it has to feel, you have to feel that progression, and it has to feel faster than like your normal school unit per se. So I liked it being kind of a 1 or 2 day activity. But think about adding this progression model with this technique. And this mastery component, where it's like class mastery matters, was this other unique piece, because the collaboration I saw, kids were celebrating each other, kids were supporting each other. When kids got it wrong, kids were not like making fun of them. Kids were like lifting them up. It's okay, we all make mistakes. Let's just hope for that low roll. Let's hope for that low roll. Definitely check out some of the resources here on this site, as well as my website. Again, links down below to all of those things, ways you can connect with me. And you could check out my podcast, Well Played, that talks about, doing playfully minded things in your classroom. You could check out my website that also has links to my book, Explore Like a Pirate, that kind of lays out these methods. All of you, I want to say, I hope you guys, if you're here now in the video, it must mean that you guys are in on this challenge and in on this this channel. And I just want to say thank you to you that are here in this channel, that participate in this channel, that like the videos, give us that thumbs up, who also take the time to post a comment. All of that matters to the YouTube algorithm, but ultimately what it matters to most is all of us on this journey. When you add your voice to the comments down below, you're helping others. When you like the video, you're helping others to see that they should watch this video. So ultimately, we are journeying together on this, and this was a great lesson that used scientific principles to engineer an experience for our students that was dynamite. Now, I put in the links below also a link to the slide deck that I used for mine, just to give you an idea of how I laid it out. It's nothing special. You heard the video, what you could build. I'd love to hear from you guys some different engagement ideas we could do for like a level, right? So an engagement 1, engagement 2, maybe instead of doing these, you guys have something I could use. I would love to hear it. Ultimately, I'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to contact me, snail mail, that's also down below. Got one of those yesterday, made my day. Love hearing from you guys, so thank you so much for that. It was a Hive Summit thank you note, so appreciate that. And everybody, I want you guys to go out there and make these kids' day. Just because we're in different situations than we've ever been before doesn't mean we can't have the similar success that we've had in the past. We just got to think differently. This lesson sort of showed that to me. I hope you take it, you use it, and you grow, and your students love it as well. Until next time, guys, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in.